you could be anywhere doing anything but you're hanging out with us. We appreciate that. So wherever you're listening and watching, and however you're listening and you're watching, we appreciate you guys for listening and for watching. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Alex Goodwin is my name. You can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. Kennedy Miller.
What's going on, fellas? How y'all doing?
Not too bad, man. Ken, where can the folks find you on Twitter, my guy?
You can find me on Twitter at _Kennedy Miller _ Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _
All right. And once again, joining us here on the show, it is that time of year. So we got to have on friend of the show, Lamar Gafford, SinlawPreps.com. Lamar, how you doing today, dog?
I am good. Can I make a petition first, though?
It's your world, dog.
I want to petition Stephen A. Smith as the next James Bond.
Did you see that clip today?
Wait, yes. when he shot the
yes.
Dude. Yes.
Yes, yeah. I feel like he had so much stealth there. So you know what? If we never needed a black James Bond, forget Idris Elba. Let's get Stephen A. Smith right now.
Could you imagine the dialogue between Stephen A. Smith and a potential villain? and Stephen A. Smith being like, "You didn't even come with your best gun? I mean, damn, why'd you even show up?" Right? Oh, man, Stephen. Oh, Jesus Christ. See, speaking of Stephen A. Smith and acting, this isn't his first acting job. Did you see the clips going around recently of him a few years ago? Well, it wasn't a few years ago, but judging by his hairline, it was about 25 years ago when he was in I Think I Love My Wife.
I've never seen that. He was in there?
I'm gonna send you the clip right now, kid. I gotta send you the clip right now. Yes, he was in a scene of I Think I Love My Wife.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Look, what a hell of a way to start off the show. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith. All right. Shout out to him. Right. But folks, we got to tell you guys, thank you guys for tuning in and watching us here on our official Game Plan Podcast YouTube channel. Don't forget, leave your comments in the comment box. You never know. We might just read them out here on the show. We always have a portion of the show. We read out your questions. Tap in with us, right? So, fellas, I said S as in sangria. I should have said S as in suitcase, because that's what Giannis Antetokounmpo has probably gotten home to Milwaukee, and he's probably packing, because his tenure as a Milwaukee Buck, I think, is over, fellas. I feel like there is no possible way that Giannis comes back to Milwaukee next year, right? Like, is it just me, or have we ever seen a superstar and a player go from winning a championship to losing 3 straight times in the first round? Ken, have we ever seen this before?
That's a good question. I mean, also context though. I mean, he got hurt. I want to say the year after they won the championship, and I think that was the year Miami beat them. Last year I know Dame was definitely hurt, and I think he was hurt too, and they lost to Indiana.
Yep.
I'm trying to think of the year in between what happened. It's been some context as far as injuries, but I do think it's kind of unprecedented, and how bad their outlook is for the near future right now. Like, they don't have any draft picks. It's not like they have a ton of salary cap space, and Dame has got 1 year left on a deal, who's probably going to miss most of next year due to the torn Achilles. So it's like, where do you go from here? And one thing that was absolutely glaring was that they were not very athletic in that series against Indiana. I mean, of course, Giannis is a freak, no pun intended, right? But everybody else on that team was lacking some mobility, athleticism. Like, you can't just surround a guy with spot up shooters and expect him to be able to get the job done. Like, that's just not how the league is anymore. And so they struggled against this team in Indiana that was young, and they play at a fast pace, and they get up and down, and they have a bunch of shot creators. And so I predicted Milwaukee to win the series, but you could tell after game one, it was absolutely evident how much of a struggle it was going to be for them to consistently score against this team.
I think, to me, the thing about Milwaukee that is so I don't want to say shocking, because they do struggle in terms of their lack of athleticism. Their second best player might be Bobby Portis, right?
Yep.
Let's keep it funky. Bobby Portis, at best, should be maybe your fourth best player, right? If Bobby Portis is who you're going to as your number two, oh, buddy, this isn't good, right? This is not good. And I think the fact that if you're Milwaukee, you have what we would say Giannis is the third best player in the NBA.
I mean, some nights the first.
Right. Giannis is one of the three best players in the NBA, and they just got gentlemen swept by a team that none of us think is a real contender.
No, they're going to get gentlemen swept next round.
Right. Like that's the part of this that is like inexcusable, right? Like, it's one thing for if you're a San Antonio Spurs team the year after they win that championship to lose in 7 to the Clippers, right, on a last-second Chris Paul shot, and that next Clippers series goes 7. Like, there was serious thought that we thought the Clippers, like, were a real championship contender that year, right? None of us think Indiana's gonna go that far. None of us do, right? And it's like their best two players after Giannis, Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez, are both free agents, right? They got money tied up in Kyle Kuzma. Kyle Kuzma ain't that good, right? It's like, really, what are the other options that they have, especially if you're a team like Milwaukee, where, let's keep it funky, guys, ain't nobody trying to go to Milwaukee, right? Like, no one wants to be young, rich, in their 20s in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, right? Like, they found a homegrown superstar in Giannis, right? And really nurtured that, right? But at this point, and Lamar, you'll probably like, I don't know if this makes sense or not. I would at least think it would make more sense for them to get it done now, right? Everybody, let's move on. No hard feelings, and to drag this out the way Damian Lillard did those last 2 years in Portland. We was talking about, King, what was he saying? Embrace the grind. I'm not going to run for, and they weren't good.
Yeah.
Go ahead. My fault.
Yep. No, I'm just agreeing with you. Keep going.
Yeah, like that was a complete and utter waste of time, when at this point, Giannis at 30, his trade value at this point is never going to get any better than it is now, right? The next 2 or 3 years, he's going to be on the back end of his prime, right? Try to trade Giannis, see what you can get for him in the name of young players, young picks, and see if you can try to make something happen again, and really build a team organically in the same ways that, think about, Lamar, the way Oklahoma City did when they traded Russell Westbrook and Paul George in the summer of 2019. You know what I mean?
I think that's going to be the one thing there, because Giannis holds the key here. Like, does he want to stay in Milwaukee, or does he want to leave? That's the biggest question right there. If he wants to stay with Milwaukee and become a lifer and happy with his one ring, that's fine. But if he wants to go, and we have seen those indications here that he really wants to try to build up his legacy and make his legacy even more, then more than likely, where does he get the chance to go? What big market does he get a chance to go? Or what team that can offer Milwaukee picks and players seems to be the most obvious choice. I actually saw a video earlier today where a lot of people were giving out trade destination ideas. Like, maybe do the Knicks have some package to give them? Do the Lakers have a package to give them? Do the Clippers have a package to give them? Maybe even teams like the Nets, do they have a package to give them? But I think some of the teams that really stand out are pretty much like the Rockets. I mean, they have young players. They also have picks to give them. And of course, OKC is always going to be the one team that comes up in these things of young players and picks that they can also send them. Now, does OKC want to part ways with let's say Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams and picks? We'll have to see about that. But I imagine that's going to be what's the case here in order to get Giannis because time's ticking, and if he stays there in Milwaukee, it's going to be very stagnant. Like you said, they don't have Dame for next year, possibly with the Achilles, and there's really not that many ways that they can really improve their team. I think the last way that they tried to do that, shipping out Chris Middleton and the last bit of him out there to Washington, but it didn't give them anything. And Kyle Kuzma, who basically just does nothing but wear oversized clothes, So other than that, basically at this point, what do you do? What do you do? And it just seems like Milwaukee has missed something since they traded away Drew Holiday. And now seeing your rival thriving with them, it's going to be hard for them, man.
And I think the thing for a team, if you're Houston or if you're Oklahoma City, you have to ask yourself this like pretty fundamental question. Is like Giannis is what, 30, 31 at this point? Is 3 years of Giannis worth more to you than 7 or 8 years of a Chet Holmgren or, a Jalen Williams, right? Or somebody like that. Or if you're Houston, you have to ask yourself, because Houston's in the same sort of situation, because, there are questions about are they going to hold on to Jalen Green or Amin Thompson or, Van Vliet or some of these other guys, because we all think Kevin Durant and or Devin Booker will both be available this summer for trade, right? For a guy like Kevin Durant, you're asking yourself, is 2 years of Kevin Durant worth more to you? And are you going to get more out of that than you will out of 5, 6, 7 other years out of Jalen Green, Amin Thompson, Reed Shepherd, Whitmore, guys like that, right? And if you're a team like Houston, or if you're a team like, San Antonio's in the same sort of place Oklahoma City is, and we used to think about Boston like this for a while after they made that Paul Pierce KG trade, you're getting all of these assets, you're getting all of these picks, all of these young players. You cannot realistically draft, develop, and retain all of these guys. At some point is the goal to like cash in some of these chips on a difference maker, right? If you're Oklahoma City, like I think they're winning the West, right? Like, I don't really think right now they need to make a huge move, right? But if you're a team like Houston, maybe I think you should think about it, right? And like Mark said here in the chat, right? Chet and 5 picks might not be enough for Giannis, right? Rudy Gobert went for 5 picks and like 4 pick swaps, right? Like, if you're going to trade Giannis, you're going to get back a full-on haul, at least theoretically. You know what I'm saying, Cam?
Yeah, I mean, I think like Lamar said, it starts with Giannis and the discussion that he's going to have with the front office. He does kind of strike me in a way as a lifer with an organization. Like, I can see him playing the rest of his years in Milwaukee, right? Knowing his background and knowing the things that he's about. But if he really is trying to win another championship in his prime, right, some of those spots that Lamar listed would be ideal spots, right? The Rockets, who look like they're about to win tonight, but, probably not the series, are severely lacking a number one option, right? And they have assets, right? You think about a team like Oklahoma City, who should win the West, and if they don't win in a disappointing fashion, discussions need to be had, right? Do we need to add a co-star next to SGA? And saying Giannis as a co-star is insane, but they have the assets, right, to do it. A team like San Antonio, right, if they're really trying to lunge back into contention, right? Stephon Castle won Rookie of the Year. His value is probably pretty high right now, right? And You have a trio of Fox, Wemby, and Giannis. Now you're going somewhere, right? So it starts with the conversation that he's going to have, and I think that the organization, if he is forthright and says, I don't want to finish my career here, I'm trying to compete for a championship, I think it's one of those things where they would do right by him because of how much he's done for the city, winning a championship, and saying, where are the places that you would like to go, and let's help you find that destination in the best way possible. So I think, honestly, Houston would probably be the best bet, because I think they just have so many assets to make it happen, and I think after these playoffs, they will be the team that's most willing to try and get a number one option.
And before we've been talking about Giannis the entire time, right? But I cannot let, before we move on, I cannot let this moment pass to point out that once again, Glenn Doc Rivers has blown yet another lead.
Did he have another one? Oh, the game.
He blew the game. Right. He blew that game. Right. This isn't as bad as what he's blowing, like 3-3-1 leads, 2-3-2 leads. Yeah, this isn't as bad. It's been a number, right? But I said it before, and it's the title of this episode. Doc Rivers ain't never seen a lead that he could not blow. And I'm not gonna lie to you, Ken. Just when I thought he couldn't blow a lead, right? Kennedy Miller, Lamar, I went to the bathroom for a quick second, right, to get something out of my eye. I came back, the game was tied. Just when I thought he couldn't do it, Ken, Lamar, what Usher do? Watch this. Just when I thought he couldn't do it, Doc Rivers has, look, with his compatriot, hands in his pockets, Darvin Ham.
Hands in his pocket, Ham.
Both looking confused, and Doc gave us another gift too. Doc.
That's crazy. That was crazy. I thought they had it in the bag. I was headed home from practice. I looked, the score was like 118 to 114, 17 seconds. I'm like, oh, they're good to go. I get home, Indiana is celebrating. I said, what happened? He's got a way for blowing the leads, dude. I've never seen anything like, especially the 3-1 stuff. I'm glad they didn't have a series lead at any point in this.
Yes. And I think the thing about Doc Rivers, here's the crazy thing. Doc Rivers is going to blow a lead, right? Just as the sun is going to rise in the east, right? Here's the thing about Doc Rivers, man. We got to start giving Doc Rivers credit. Despite Doc Rivers and his lead blowing, he keep a job.
Keeps a job. He was only commentating for like 2 months.
Doc, man, bro, Lamar, y'all ever seen some of these black actors that we always talk about? Man, that's Mr. Keep a Job. Who's homeboy who played Pinky and Friday?
Oh, Clifton Powell.
Clifton Powell, old boy who was in Sister. He was one of their boy thing. Ron Rico Lee, he keep a job. Right. Wendy Raquel Robinson, she keep a job. LaToya Luckett, she keep a job. Right. Somehow Rivers keeps a job. Dude. Somehow this man keep a job. And I think the thing about Doc is going to be, and see, Mark said it, and I'm not going to repeat this, but Doc Rivers, I think, has some sort of blackmail on somebody. He does. Doc got some sort of blackmail on somebody. If you see the comment in the chat, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. Doc has something on somebody. He must have, because I've never seen someone save for that championship in 2008 with the Big Three Celtics. We would be talking about Doc Rivers in the same way I think we talk about Larry Brown, right? Like a coach who can, with Larry Brown, you're never going to be a bad team, right? Like Larry Brown has been to the finals, one time?
Twice, right?
Twice. Well, I know it was Philadelphia. No, they just went once.
Oh.
3 times.
Yeah, he's been 3.
Yeah.
Larry Brown. With the Pistons.
Yeah. He went back to back with the Pistons.
Right. So Larry Brown primarily throughout his career, we looked at as all right, he can take a good team, he can take a young team and make them really good, right? But like we don't think about Larry Brown like a coach who's going to take a good like super contending team and take them to that championship level, right? You know what I'm saying? Like without that championship, we talk about Doc Rivers entirely differently, you know?
This is a perfect analogy there because me and one of my good friends, we've always I sent him a text and I said to him, "Hey, Doc blew another one," and then he just laughed once again because we've always had this discussion. Doc, being so much of an overrated coach that one ring has so much weight and it carries so much weight to him. And I feel like the best coaching job that he did would kind of at one point maybe turn around on Doc was the 18-19 Clippers,
Yep.
where
Yes.
they gave the Warriors, I think, pushed them to 6 games and all that. And I'm like, maybe Doc isn't so bad of a coach. And then next thing you know, when he gets Kawhi and Paul George and everything else like that, he goes back to blowing 3-1 leads. Like it's just so crazy here with Doc Rivers that and everything that, like you said, he stays having a job. He's a good coach for some reasons, but he just can never get to that upper echelon level like a Popovich or anything like that.
I think it's really easy to fall in love with the idea of Doc Rivers. Like those 2 months that he commentated, I'm like, I love this dude on TV. He was a great commentator. He's a great storyteller. If you've ever watched like any of his interviews, like I can see how front offices would be like, we want this guy to be over our team. And him winning the championship only amplified that, I would say. And then, now it's like, okay, he's a choker, but he was able to hold on to these like excuses for a while, right? They win in 08, 09, Kevin Garnett gets hurt. 2010, Kendrick Perkins gets hurt game 5 or game 5 of the 7-game series, right? So, well, we very well could have three-peated had we been healthy these 3 years, right? 2011, Bron comes. 2012, you get up 3-2 on the Heat. Bron goes crazy. You lose in game 7, right? And then I want to say 2012 was his last year with the Celtics. Then he went to the Clippers, or maybe a year later. But CP and Blake never really got along. But now, 15 years later, and like you said, Lamar, all of these instances, I think the first most glaring one was 2015 when you're up 3-1 on the Rockets. And you're up by, I want to say 15-20 in that game. And it almost kind of looked like they had thrown in a towel with their starters. And then Jason Terry, Josh Smith, Corey Brewer
walked them down.
That game in LA. Was that game
6?
Yeah, game 6. And then, they folded. It's not a good look. It's a bad stain on a coach's reputation to have this many blown opportunities with this much talent. Like that's the last thing I'm gonna say. Name me another coach that has coached as much talent as Doc Rivers has.
Kawhi, let's really what they always say. Let's discuss it.
Names. Think about the names that he's coached. He's coached Kawhi, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Rondo, Shaq was on that team. Obviously, older Shaq.
It's not like that's like three-peat Shaq though.
Yeah, I'm not prime Shaq by any means.
Mm-hmm. T-Mac, yep.
Paul George,
Blake Griffin, Paul George, James Harden, Joel Embiid, Giannis. Like, if we go and look at the top 50 greatest play, top 75 now, and we look and see how many of those players Glenn coached, discussions need to be had.
It's very true, man. It kind of brings us to a team like the Rockets, right? Where they've got a coach, Ime Udoka, who in Boston had a really good team that he took to being a championship level team. And he's trying to do that same thing here in Houston. They're down in the series 3-1, right? They're up tonight by 30. And, I thought they'd come out tonight and show some pride and win this ball game, but they're going to lose this series. Ken, you thought the Rockets were not ready for the moment. you thought everything basically that you said was true. And I was like, well, the Rockets are long, they're tall, they're going to possibly make it much tougher for Curry and Jimmy Butler, to where if Steph Curry has 27, 28 points, he's going to have to work for those 27, 28. But the biggest thing with the Rockets is they do not have a guy that they could go to at the end of a ball game, hand the ball and say, get us a bucket. Or if they're down 12, 15, 17, they're like, hey, keep us in it for a little bit. Keep us in it. Just keep us in it, right? We thought that guy would be Jalen Green. At least assumed that it would be him. This series, he has not had it, right? He's played a lot better tonight, but right, other than game 2, which he had 38 before tonight, he has had 3 games in single digits. And I think the worst thing about game 4, I didn't even realize he wasn't on the floor for the last 6.5 minutes of the game, right? Like, that's how much of a non-factor he was. Like in game 1, he shoots like 4 for 18, but you know he's out there and he's shooting. Right. The other night, it was like, it wasn't until like a minute and a half. I was like, wait, is that Jalen Green on the bench? Right. Like, there's no reason why Dylan Brooks should outscore you and take more shots than you do in the biggest game of the season. Like, that to me is inexcusable. Right. Like, if you're going to be our best player, you got to go down swinging. Like, he shouldn't have been doing the same thing you, Kennedy, or Lamar, we were doing on Monday night, sitting and watching. Like, damn, I wonder what play they gonna run to try to win this game. You know what I'm saying, Lamar?
Right, exactly. And I just had my qualms about Jalen Green was he's just so inconsistent. Like you said, he can be able to pop off for 30 at any given time, but he could also have some duds here and there as well. What really kind of helped him out, especially in last year when the Rockets were trying to make a push, but unfortunately could not get to the playoffs, was when Şengün wasn't able in there. He had to be the guy that stepped up, and also the whole thing with him knocking up Dre Michelle also kind of made him step up a little bit more in that case too. But with that being said, it just seems like at this point, man, like he is not a great number 2 at this point, where I think you have to make those moves. You may have to trade him away and everything else like that. My first thought was I thought the Rockets needed to trade away Jabari Smith, and I knew that right there because it just seemed like that he was kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And I think there has to be a real big discussion right there. Maybe you could move Green down to number 3 or something like that, but it just doesn't seem like it's cutting it, man. Like, and I can see why that they would be in these conversations for KD and for Booker and for Giannis right then and there because of the inconsistency. And Şengün's going to bring it every night, but you're going to need to have Green to also expect to bring it as well if he's going to be a member of this team. And unfortunately, he just hasn't.
I think they were Rockets fans, and I guess people around would be more willing to live with this like playoff inconsistency right now if their timeline hadn't been accelerated. So like if they were like a 6 seed, just their first year in the playoffs, he's struggling. They're still a young team. They can do this, but their timeline has been accelerated. Now they are the 2 seed. And now you are favored, right, against the Warriors, who are a proven team. Now it's like, we don't care how young you are. Show us what you got. And in reality, I think everybody on that team needs to be knocked down a notch on the pecking order, right, which is what we've all been saying, right? Right now, he's not a number 1. Could he be one later on? Possibly, right? He's got some potential, right? But Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, the Rockets play like a team that is missing their star player. They play like a team that's missing their star player. They've got the culture set. They play hard. They're tough, right? They've got good coaching. But like we've all talked about, down the stretch, and the reason why I picked the Warriors, I don't think the way that the Rockets are playing tonight, they could sustain this for 4 games. They can do it once or twice, right? It's going to be extremely tough to do it again. Today's Wednesday. I think they'll play Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
It'll be extremely tough to do it again in Chase Center. All right. And I hope they do. Right. I hope they do. I want the series to go 7. But it's just it's not enough right now. It's not enough. And you've done your rebuild. You have done your rebuild successfully. You had 4 or 5 straight losing seasons. You drafted. Guys are starting to fill into their roles. We know Amen Thompson is going to be a star. You've got high-end role players, right? Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Sengun, obviously, Jalen Green. You got a core, right? Now it's like time to put the icing on the cake. Reed Shepherd, you got to go. Them picks, got to go. Right? You don't need to draft nobody else. Right? You got your team now. You just need a star. 25-point a game score.
And they got the coach too. Like,
yes,
shout out to Mike in the comment section. We'll put it up here on the screen for y'all. So, see what happens when Ime Udoka ain't having to scandal at his place of occupation. And, Ime has been on his best behavior, which is a bit shocking to me. Because let's be honest, guys. If Ime Udoka couldn't, keep it together in Boston,
hey.
I was like, they gonna have to put him. They gonna have to put a tether on him in Houston because he interviewed in Houston and Atlanta. I was like, Ken, like, what did I say about when Mel Tucker interviewed for that job at Prairie View? Ken, what did I say? I said,
the absolute wrong place.
Go home, Mel.
Go home.
Look, coach. Look, go to the athletic center and then go home, Mel Tucker.
Yeah.
Look, don't go to the student center. Don't walk on the yard. Go to the athletic center. Go to the football building and go home. But Ime has been, at least from what we know right now, Ime's been doing pretty good. I'm pretty sure human resources is busy though.
And they winning too. Like,
yes.
Don't let the Rockets come back from a 3-1 deficit with Ime Udoka in charge against the Warriors. Hey, man. They might be working overtime that night at Gold Diggers.
Ime's going to spend all of the money he had earmarked for child support payments to Nia Long. He's going to spend it all.
I'm happy for Ime though. They're doing a great job. I love what they've done.
Shout out to Ime. He just got done, like, because I got the game on the screen. And he just got done cussing.
I saw that.
Amen Thompson smooth out, right? So we hope that series goes 7 just for our pure entertainment purposes, because this has been a great set of first round games.
Yes.
And a series that, for Kennedy Miller's purposes, that he hopes goes 7 games is this Lakers-Minnesota series. Ken, your man LeBron is down 3-1. You don't like that segue, Ken? You don't like that segue?
Keep going. Go ahead.
They are down 3-1 to the Ant-Man and the T-Wolves. So, Ken, this isn't quite time for therapy because, the Lakers still have, they still have a chance right now. Historically speaking, 95% of teams that go down 3-1, they lose the series.
Correct.
So Kennedy Miller, you mentioned to me in the text that you had some criticisms of JJ Redick you had to get off your chest, Mr. Miller. And I assume that's with some of his lineups. Am I correct about that?
Yeah. For the most part this year, I thought he's done a very good job in the first year as a head coach. Obviously, you're dealing with this blockbuster trade that was made in the middle of the season, which is unprecedented. But, if I had a criticism like most, I just don't think 5 guys should have played the entire second half. We did not sub. Now, if we were a team like Minnesota, if this was the 2011 Heat, I can see you doing that. You got a bunch of young athletic dudes, right? They can play all day. Like LeBron and D-Wade and Chris Bosh, they could have played, right? But you got a 40-year-old LeBron, fat Luka, Finney Smith, Hachimura, and Austin Reeves. You can't give them a 2-minute break. The commercials are long. It's playoffs. The timeouts are extended. right? We can't sit them down the first 2 minutes of the fourth. Is that how down bad we are? Vanderbilt can't get any minute. Gabe Benson, knock off Shamar Moore. And I'm done with Jackson Hayes. I'm done with him. I can't. I've never seen a role player complain so much about obvious fouls.
That Draymond Green.
That he's committed. Draymond Green is better. He's established. He's a top 75 player.
That's fair.
By the league standards, right? Jackson Hayes, you're on the league minimum, buddy. Like, you can't get a technical foul 2 minutes into a playoff game. So JJ sat him down and did not play him again for the rest of the game, as he should. I used to have some criticism about JaVale McGee when he first came to the Lakers. I want to apologize so much to JaVale McGee. I took him for granted. I was shocked in the fool, not him. I'm shocked in the fool. Because the things that I've seen Jackson Hayes do in this series, I would pay top dollar to have JaVale McGee back right now. That's really the thing that's hurting the Lakers. Is I said this before, as a Lakers front office person, you have to make that deal. But if you did not finish the deal, right, with building the rest of the roster comfortably around it, then it doesn't do anything this year. I've said it before. It's like a puzzle piece. That Lakers team, before Luka got there, it was only missing like one puzzle piece. All they needed was a backup big. They were fourth in the West. They had just beat the Knicks on Saturday night. Anthony Davis was getting ready to come back. I think if that team was playing this Minnesota team, it wasn't going to be easy, but I think they would win in 6 because Minnesota they have so many matchups to attack. The only person they were going to attack would be Reeves in that lineup, and Anthony Davis was on the back line, so you wouldn't have to scramble as much. But getting Lucas, like, you reset the whole puzzle, and now you got all these new pieces that you got to put together. And so we're really good as a 5-out team, but where Luka is best, what we saw last year, is when they got Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively, because it adds another dimension. Because when that big is run down the middle of the floor, Luka's a very good passer. He can throw lobs or he can kick it out to shooters. Well, now they know we have nobody that's going to catch lobs. So all they're doing is staying on the 3-point line. And Finney Smith is not blowing by anybody. Hachimura is not blowing by anybody. So a very athletic team like Minnesota is taking advantage. And my goodness, Naz Reid, I guess I learned on the last game, people in Minnesota salute each other by saying Naz Reid, like Roll Tide in Alabama. Naz Reid. Naz Reid. What? This dude hasn't missed a shot in the fourth quarter of these playoffs. And you know how bullish I am on Julius Randle and the bull in the China shop mentality. This dude is looking like a max player. He's playing his butt off. I'm at a loss for words, and I can only tip my hat. I thought Denver was the only one that could do it.
You got to tip your hat and say Naz Reid.
I got to tip my hat and say Naz Reid. Naz Reid. This is incredible. It's incredible because I know when they play the Warriors in the next round, Naz Reid and Julius Randle, I'm not going to say they're going to shrink, but I feel like they're playing out of their minds right now. And I don't think they're going to do that for 2 straight series.
I think for the Lakers, what I said it last week, what gave the Lakers, I think every team in the West, except for Memphis, right, had a reasonable argument that they could win 2 rounds and make it to the conference finals, but they all had a but, right? The Lakers, what gave the Lakers hope is that, like I said last week, for the first time in his life, LeBron James is the second best player on a basketball team. For the first time, right? But their but is in crunch time, LeBron James is their center.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, all right, that's not feasible. Right. And I also thought in this Minnesota series specifically, if Luka's able to take advantage of these matchups, right, with Mike Conley or Rudy Gobert. If he can play Rudy Gobert off the floor, and then it's, 5 out, no Gobert, and they're going McDaniels, Alexander Walker, Ant-Man, Conley, and Naz Reid, they got a shot there, right? But they've not been able to play Gobert off the floor, right? So then Minnesota has this huge rebounding and this huge height advantage, but while still being athletic. And Ant-Man, let's be honest, right? We think about what was that Rick Ross song? Idols become your rivals, right? Yeah. Like Ant-Man is taking down everybody that he used to have posters of on his wall. Kevin Durant took him down. LeBron James, he about to take him down.
Jokic
walked Jokic down Game 7 in Denver. Like, he don't want to be the man. Ant-Man don't want to be the top guy, be the face of the league. Hey, man, sometimes you got to walk in your calling. You that guy. He that dude. You know what I'm saying? And if they make a real run, it's going to be on the back of him. Yep. Naz Reid is nice. Bull in the China shop, Julius Randle, that's nice, right? If they going to go anywhere, it's going to be because of the Ant-Man. You know what I'm saying?
And to your point, and Lamar, I'll let you go. But when you're talking about everybody in the West, like that's a 3-6 matchup, but it's separated by 1 game. Like that's how close it was. Like it wasn't like this is not like the Lakers were favorites, but it wasn't like this is a 56 win team versus a 42-42 or 42-40. Like it was just separated by 1. It went down to the end of the season, and it could have been anybody. But I mean, honestly, like you got to tip your cap to them. Like they are playing well, they are coached well, and they came in with a belief that, okay, everybody picking them. Watch this.
Wait, Naz Reid of the LSU Fighting Tigers, Jesus. And also Naz Reid with the towel at the last 2 WrestleManias and everything. But I know that there's 3 guys that were really looking forward to this series and really looking forward to doing damage. Obviously, Ant-Man wanted to get revenge against Luka from last year. Julius Randle wanted to get revenge from his whole Laker tenure. And Nico Harrison, who's really hoping in this one here that Luka gets out in the first round and everything. And I bet you Nico's probably smiling right now in this cheer, even though there's a brick probably thrown at his window right now. But he's probably smiling like saying, see, told you so. I had it. I knew something was wrong with that boy right then and there. But yeah, Ant-Man, man, like I said, he's just been so impressive in this over the last 2 postseasons where, like you said, knocking off all your rivals, getting KD out of there, getting Jokic out of there, and now this year getting Luka and LeBron out of there. I'm really interested in seeing that if Minnesota faces against Golden State in the next round here. Man, what would happen if he's the guy that knocks out Steph and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green and everything else like that? Like the legend of the Ant-Man continues to grow that much more. And like you said, he doesn't want to be the face of the league, but damn it, sometimes you got to be the face of the league, my man. Like you walking down everybody.
Watch your back, Rudy Gobert. Watch your back.
Oh yeah. Oh, Draymond Green is a foot. When look, if the Warriors end up playing Minnesota, the moment like all Rudy Gobert is going to hear the whole time is that Jaws music. Dun 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 dun. Right. The closer Draymond Green gets to him, like we just got to make sure we don't trigger Draymond Green. We just all have to just make sure Draymond Green is in a good hand. And you'll never know what it is that's going to trigger Draymond Green. You can just look at him, and then there he goes, and he's doing a spinning heel kick.
Against that team, like the way they've been acting in this Lakers series, it's going to happen.
Get them both mic'd up.
Who?
I would like to hear that. Can we get them both mic'd up? I just want to hear that.
That's going to be explicit. They're going to have to put that on pay-per-view
for a subscription to get unfiltered, mic'd up NBA footage.
Because you know whose footage I would have wanted to hear? that when Jimmy Butler and Dylan Brooks were
yeah.
cussing each other out at the free throw line. And I think Jimmy Butler called him a BAN.
Yeah.
And then the referee was like, were you talking to me? He's like, no, I'm talking to Brooks. He's like, the referee's like, okay, as you were, right? Like, if you talking to me.
That dude Legend Z on Twitter or whatever that transcribes everything.
Yeah.
He does a great job, but I would love for them to mic up people like a Draymond and I don't know who. Draymond and Anthony Edwards. If they play in the next round, like to add it mic'd up, you got to pay some extra money to get the real version of it. Absolutely.
Like, yeah, like that is absolutely something you pay for. Lamar, like kind of like you said, one person who was at home cheering so hard for Minnesota is Nico Harrison. You know he's probably over there. Remember in next Friday when Day saw Craig go over there to talk to Carl, he's like, I bet he don't get it. I bet he don't get it. I hope he don't get it. Right? See what? Right? You know that's Nico Harrison. Nico Harrison is at home calling everybody he knows. See, I told you he was fat and out of shape. I told you. Yep. I told you, but I ain't gonna lie. Luka does look like he's sweating all of the brown liquor out from the night before. He does. And here's the bad part. You know, anytime people just refer to him as like first word out after Luka is at some point people refer to Fat Luka, or my dad was just like, you know, how LeBron and Fat Boy doing, and you know exactly who he's talking about.
Yep.
So like, it's a mess. It is a mess for the Lakers. Ken, I don't want to say my condolences because it's not a funeral.
I mean, in reality, it might be. You know, I think I want to say we'll be much better next year, but me saying that will be the year that LeBron finally falls off the cliff and is dead. Like, how ironic when you finally got the team that's capable of competing, like they get a rim running big, they get another athletic wing, and then Father Time is finally hit and he's done.
Hey, yo, we got to throw this comment up here on from the chat.
Oh my gosh.
Draymond Green versus 100 Gorillas.
I was going to say this. I was going to bring it up at some point. The kids have been doing it. They've been talking about it all day. They bought a whole big paper. They asked me to sign one of them, one of the names to fight the gorilla. One gorilla versus 100 men. Who wins? The Gorilla's obviously going to win. I think we all understand this. We all understand. We're smart guys. But if there's a couple of Draymond Greens that's hitting at 100 men, that Gorilla leaving there with something. Like, he killed 100 men, but he going to be rubbing his head. Like, I held my own.
He had me for a minute. Hey, hold on, because you know what I'm thinking about Draymond Green in 09 Randy Orton. That gorilla going down, right? 09 Randy. Look, if you see Draymond Green in 09 Randy Orton versus a gorilla, you better help the gorilla.
How many punches to the head is the gorilla gonna get? How many punches to the head is the gorilla gonna get?
2, just 2. All he need 2.
Oh gosh.
2. I have another. It just takes 2 reference, but for my OG game plan listeners, right? It just takes 2 for Dion Waiters. And I was gonna say it just takes 2 for someone else, right? But we have jobs and we would like to keep them. All right, before this turns into a complete and unadulterated mess. But speaking of a mess, guys, you know whose weekend was a mess last week?
Ooh.
Shedeur Sanders. Before we get into the how or the why his weekend became a mess, I just want to start here and say this. I can imagine someone like him had been dreaming about getting drafted his entire life and dreaming about what that moment would have felt like, right? And just thinking that's going to be one of the better moments of his entire life, much in the same way that, you know, some women from a very young age dream about getting married, right? And if that wedding day goes awry, like they just completely fall apart. You know what I'm saying? I can assume a similar thing, like Shedeur Sanders probably felt a similar type of emotion. Now, why that thing fell apart the way that it did, some of that, like, it seemed to me that Deion Sanders played this in a way that his son was like a surefire top 5 pick.
Right.
That's the way he approached this thing. And can you remember me saying this several weeks ago, probably a month ago? I was like, I think Shedeur falls out of the first round. Right. But Deion handled this. He was like, you don't have to throw at the combine. Right. You can go to the East West Shrine game. You're supposed to, at minimum, practice. He didn't even practice. Right. He went in those interviews and he bombed those interviews. They said he went in there with Brian Dable, like, to do an install. And he was like given the set of plays, like, be ready to do an install. You come for your meeting. And he wasn't ready. And then he showed up and then Dable called him on it. And he was not pleased that Dable called him on it. Right. Like, he played this as if he was a Phantom, when in fact he was a Chrysler 300. And it's like, no, player, to quote Cat Williams, you're a Chrysler 300. Right. Like, the real Phantom, there's not a real Phantom in this draft. Like, the closest thing to a super duper luxury car was like Cam Ward, and he was like a BMW.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so he fell probably much farther than he ever would have. Right. But there is no way this happens if Deion doesn't play it this way. And one of the big reasons Deion played it this way is because he thought the boy was going to be a top 5 pick. But if the boy had an agent, he would have realized all these people think this boy is at best a second or a third rounder. Like, the fact that he did not have an agent, given Deion Sanders' influence, Deion Sanders' cachet, Deion Sanders' connections, that he did not, like, that he was Shedeur and Shiloh's agent, to me is baffling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think they tried to play this like he was Eli Manning, which Eli Manning was a top pick, like reported to be a top pick in a loaded quarterback class. Your son was not Eli Manning. So I think it turned a lot of people off, especially last year, when he's like, yeah, we're basically going to decide who drafts him. Like, no, because he's not going in the top 5, right? And we talked about it that night. The Saints maybe at 9, and then it was Pittsburgh at 21. And not Pittsburgh at 21, then you ain't going in the first round. Because, again, yes, it's a draft of 32 teams. 32 teams don't need you. It was only like, what, six or 7 teams that were looking for a quarterback?
I think it might have been like Cleveland, Pittsburgh, the Giants, the Jets, and the Saints.
Yep.
Those are the only 5 teams where we were like, those 5 teams need quarterback. Everybody else probably drafted a quarterback in the last 2 years. Carolina's got a guy. What?
And maybe the Rams. Maybe the Rams.
Right. Maybe the Rams. We're thinking like that's like a later round thing, right? Yep. Everybody else had a guy, just drafted a guy, or just paid their guy, and that guy's on their second extension.
Yep. So, I mean, like, I think he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Because, like, as a quarterback, you're supposed to be the least of their worries as an organization. Like, you know, if they being real, some linemen gonna get in trouble, some D linemen gonna get in trouble. You know what I mean? Some receivers gonna be some divas, but your quarterbacks not typically supposed to be a problem, right? And I was listening to something they were talking about, like, teams were falling in love with these other quarterbacks, but they just weren't very good. Like, teams loved Dylan Gabriel. He just wasn't very good. They loved Jalen Milroe. Just wasn't that good to them on tape, right? But they wanted to take them. I think it was the opposite of Shedeur. Like, I think teams were very reluctant to try and go get him. And I really don't think, like, you can look at the Browns when they drafted him. Every other person that got drafted, when they showed their front office, everybody standing up, high-fiving, shaking hands, everybody just sitting there. And it was more so like the conversation was like, you got to earn your keep around here. It's not like, oh, we love to have you. Come on down. We're going to be a Brown. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if that was an owner call. Like, the owner needs to, like, y'all need to draft him, and they didn't want to do it. But clearly, the way this guy perceived himself and his camp perceived him versus the way that the league perceived him was 2 totally different things. And it was so embarrassing.
And like that's the part of it, right? Is that some people, there's been some people claiming that this is like they colluded against him. No one wants to deal with an outspoken black man and his outspoken father. And it's like, first of all, Shadur Sanders is not an outspoken black man. Like, this ain't Geronimo Pratt. Okay. Like, that is not what this is. Right. And let's keep it funky. If the boy was good enough, right? Like, we've seen outspoken fathers, their sons get drafted in the top 5. Lonzo Ball, LaMelo Ball. Wasn't nobody worried about LeVar. Right? They're like, just tell your daddy to sit down and shut up. But if you're that guy, if you that cold, we will put up with you. You know what I'm saying? And I think the thing about the Browns, they drafted Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd and then drafted Shadur Sanders.
Yeah.
Much in the same sort of way where with Robert Griffin III going 2, and then Kirk Cousins, they drafted Kirk Cousins, I think like 80 picks later in the 3rd round. It's like, okay, the coach wanted one of you, and then the general manager or ownership wanted the other one, right?
Mm.
Because Ken, like you said, when they went into the draft room and showed the GM and Kevin Stefanski, and they had that look on their face, right? I'm honestly, my first thought was, I have seen hostages look more excited.
It was evident. It was evident
that they did not want to do, like, that they didn't want to do this, because if they really were excited about Shadur Sanders was there in the 3rd round and they could have got him. Instead, they went out and got a dude who has not as much arm talent. I mean, Shadur Sanders ain't throwing the ball out the building, right? But a dude with a weaker arm, with less experience running a pro style offense, who's even shorter than he is, right? So it's like, and they was like, nah, that guy's we want that guy before we take this one, right? And then he had to deal with, I ain't gonna lie, now this part was kind of cruel, right? When that boy prank called him.
Yep.
That was cruel. And I'm gonna swing this to you, Lamar. They fined the Falcons $250,000, and they fined Jeff Ulbrich, the Falcons defensive coordinator, $100,000 because his son made that prank call. I'm not gonna lie to you right now. I don't have kids, right? But I'm not gonna lie. If you cost me $100,000 of my hard-earned dollars because you want to play on the phone, come to the street.
As an assistant coach too.
Come to the street. Like, you know what? After you come to the street, and because it's gonna get what did Day say in next Friday? This gonna get physical. Right, it would get real physical, and after it got real physical, I'd tell that boy to get that blood up off of his eye, and I'm taking him to the bank because he's taking out $100,000 loan.
I was about to say either that or I'm giving him $100,000 butt whoop. I'm just taking out the belt, just just doing just like that.
You need more than the belt. He's 21 years old. He old enough to vote. He old enough to drink. He old enough to buy cigarettes and buy lottery tickets. You old enough to know you shouldn't be up here playing.
Right.
Like, if he's sitting around in the basement of that house, I'm kicking him out right then and there. You live out there on the street for about a week. How about that? But Dad, no. You get you causing me to lose money and everything. But nah, that was very cruel and all that, because like you said, I mean, that, there is no way about that. And regardless of how anybody feels about Shadur or the Sanders family or anybody, just to prank call him like that, where he doesn't even know who got that number from and everything else like that. That's really twisting the knife right there at what's supposed to be your highest point. Same thing happened to Abdul Carter as well. And, I'm pretty sure the NFL is going to deal with that as well there. But, just going back with the Shadur thing there, but like you said, it's just one of those things, unfortunately. And now he has to try to find a way just to kind of prove himself into the league. Can he have any staying power and everything? And all the stuff that he did, like, he should have played the card a lot better in this case. Should have done the combine. Should have thrown during the pro day. Should have acted a little bit better during the interviews and everything. And as you said before, Alex, like, with the talent and everything else like that, they will put up with a lot more if you're very talented. I mean, we kind of think of Travis Hunter as kind of like an offshoot of Dion as well. So, Travis went to the number 2 in the pick because of his talent. Was able to do it as a cornerback. Was able to do it as a wide receiver. So, all the think pieces, and I know everybody tried to get the think pieces out and trying to, can we humble Shadur and all that and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, it's just, maybe he wasn't really that good in the first place. Like, he was decent, but maybe he wasn't really that good.
And
I saw one of his first games as a freshman. He didn't really light up the world on fire. We saw that game against Colorado State. And Kamara, dude, I'm pretty sure he made him a lot of money. At least got him a chance of getting into the league because of him being in prime time right then and there. So, yeah.
And I think like one of the things is like all of this is happening in the context of Deion Sanders, in the context of like the conversations around like black quarterbacks, right? In the racism that black quarterbacks have had to deal with in the past, right? Like all of that is happening in that context, right? And it's very easy, I think, for people to try to simplify this to one thing. Well, they don't want to deal with, people just trying to humble him, or, he should have went to the combine and actually worked out, or, everybody just is upset about X, Y, or Z small thing. It's like, it's probably a confluence of all these events that resulted in him falling as far as he did, right? But I do think there's two things that this gives Shadur Sanders a unique opportunity to do. The first thing it gives him an opportunity to do is like gives an opportunity, like, we all watch wrestling here. He's been and kind of comported himself as a heel this entire time, right? Flashing his watching people's faces, the whole deal, right? Like him and Cam Ward having that conversation. He said, I get paid to drink Gatorade and the whole thing, right? He has a chance to be the underdog, right? He has a chance to be a face, right? To overcome obstacles, because if we really think about it, right, like there is a chance as a 5th round pick that dude don't make the team. You know what I'm saying? And especially like if we think about the Browns quarterback room, right? Deshaun Watson, he's torn his Achilles twice. Yeah. He's done. He's never playing again. Like he is only on the team simply because it's like extremely crippling if they were to cut him, because he's worth what, $170 million in dead cap space if they cut him or trade him right now, right? He's on the team, but he's a non-factor, right? Joe Flacco is 45 years old, right? Kenny Pickett can't play dead.
Yep.
And they just drafted Dillon Gabriel, who in the 3rd round, who none of us think, like Dillon Gabriel for me was like quarterback 8 or quarterback 9, right?
So do you think it's a bigger possibility that he gets cut or a bigger possibility that he could win the job?
I think, honestly, I'm not sure, because, this is the Browns we're talking about, guys. I think there's a situation where, like, if you're they got Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. He's quarterback 4, right? It's hard in training camp or even preseason for QB4 to get reps, right? Or to get on the field, right? So that's going to be difficult, right? Because they've got more money tied in, at least signing bonus and things, with a 3rd round pick than you do with a 5th round pick. Typically, rounds 1 through 4, you're going to make the team. If you're rounds 5, 6, and 7, it's touch and go if you may or may not make the team that first year. Dillon Gabriel, 3rd round pick, they got more money tied into him on the signing bonus, different things like that. He going to be on the roster, right? Either Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, or Shadur Sanders won't be come opening day.
Well, because I was listening to a scout talk about it, and like Joe Flacco knows the offense. Like, so, I mean, like he's going to get his reps, but it's not a matter of getting him up to speed. Like he knows what he's doing, and they ain't gonna have a 45-year-old out there taking a bunch of snaps in preseason, because something might break quickly. So really, you down to Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, and Shadur, and he was saying that Shadur would probably be the best fit. And you just said everything about Kenny Pickett. We all know who Kenny Pickett is, but Shadur would probably be the best fit for that system. Stefanski, what is my guy name in Green Bay? I can't even think of his name right now.
Which one? Jordan Love?
No,
LaFleur.
Shanahan, right? That whole West Coast scheme. You have to be an accurate thrower of the football. You don't have to have a great arm. And so, that was his argument. Shedeur very well has a possibility. He could win out the starting job because if Flacco knows it, right? And so he's not getting a lot of reps, right? Which is fine. And Kenny Pickett plays like Kenny Pickett we've seen. And Shedeur outplays Dylan Gabriel, right? He's got a chance to be on that roster and possibly get some playing time, right? But I do get what you're saying. On the flip side, you're a 5th-round pick. You could very well get the last 5 or 6 reps and not get majority of the reps. And then, they're impressed with Dylan Gabriel. He has the total package of the personality and how they want their locker room to be policed, right? And I could see how they, end up kicking Shedeur to the curb.
Go ahead, Lamar.
Shedeur Sanders, perfect, and like you said about the wrestling thing, perfect analogy for Shedeur Sanders, Dirty Dominic Mysterio.
Okay.
It's Dirty Dom. He's Dirty Dom. Getting all this heat because of everything, all the booze and everything else like that, and now trying to work his way up and trying to live up to that name right then and there. And so, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens between now and the end of the preseason to see how does he stay as far as that pick stay on the roster there, or at least does he stay as a practice squad guy? So like you said, he's going to have to make the most out of his reps. He's going to have to learn how to become a great teammate, and because I think, as you said on the last show, being able to be liked is capital here. You don't necessarily need it, but it's nice to have at this point. And that's what with Shedeur, that's what he's gonna have to have there.
One last thing before we ride out of here. Something I think that's gone under discussed in this Shedeur Sanders conversation is this is going to be the first time in his life he has actually not walked into a place and been first string. Right. Every place else he has played for his father, and his father has created a situation where Shedeur was the guy, right? Like going into Jackson State. That's what happened, right? High school, Little League. Everybody knew Shedeur was the quarterback, right? A lot of people call it derisively daddy ball, and there's something to it. But at all these other places, Shedeur has been good enough, right, to be like, all right, if they go play some daddy ball, the boy actually better be good. And he's been good enough to actually justify it, right? Deion's opening press conference at Colorado, he points to the back room and says, you see that? Points to Shedeur and said, that's the quarterback right there. And then it's like, he's going to have to earn it. But it's like, okay. And then there were other reports that, like, in the quarterback room, Deion told the other quarterbacks, y'all are here to make Shedeur better. Like, he has never had to compete for the spot, ever. Right? This time, he's going to have to get it out the mud. And if he is as good as his father thought he was, right? Like, again, I hope the boy does well. I really do. Right. I really hope he does well. Right. Or at least, the fact that, he made it to the league, despite all of this, is, good for him. But even if he isn't like the second coming, if he just becomes an average backup quarterback or even like a fringe starter, right? If he becomes Jacoby Brissett, dog, you won.
Yep.
It's like what Matt said in the chat too. Props to Shiloh as well for being a great big brother.
Yes, dog. Shiloh was hilarious the entire weekend. Like, he was like, man, if they doing you like that, oh boy, I'm up a hill. Like, Shiloh is hilarious. Like, he's the one in the family. We've always been making jokes that Travis Hunter is going to take Shiloh Sanders' spot, or going to take Shiloh's spot at the table. The whole thing. It's like, nah, this is how Shiloh earned his keep right here.
Yep.
Like, because he
I
was
got
funny.
mad props for him this weekend. I got mad props for him this weekend.
Yeah, man, shot. And that's how I really should go, man. Now the point where he was like, Dad been our agent this whole time, but that ain't been going so well. So I'm gonna have to go get me an agent. And then like 40 minutes later, Drew Rosenhaus sends out a photo, new to Rosenhaus Sports, Shiloh Sanders. It's like, oh, he wasn't playing.
Nah, he was for real.
That he was. And that is another episode of the Game Plan Podcast. Kennedy Miller, my guy.
Yes, sir.
Where can the folks find you on Twitter, dog?
Find me at _Kennedy Miller _. Again, that's _Kennedy Miller _.
All right. Lamar Gafford, SinLawPreps.com. Lamar, let the folks know where they can find all your work on Louisiana high school sports, where they can find you on social media, all of that, man.
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter at Lamar Gafford. Once again, at Lamar Gafford, all in one word. Instagram, Primetime2832. And we have SinLawPreps.com. We got some softball content coming up. State softball tournament coming up this weekend. Can't wait to see all this good softball actions. Great time of the year.
All right. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Alex Goodwin TSM. Again, that's on the artist formerly known as Twitter, at Alex Goodwin TSM. That's T as in tacos, S as in sangria, M as in margaritas. I should have said, oh man, they out there tussling. Let me get back to the end of the show before we watch them boys fight. But follow the show on Instagram at _the Game Plan Podcast. Again, on Instagram at _the Game Plan Podcast. Once again, the Game Plan Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Cambryce Tax Consulting. Okay, we are way past April 15th. If you have not filed your taxes or filed an extension, you need to call my guys at Cambryce Tax Consulting.com. Again, that's Cambryce, CAMBRICE TAX Consulting.com. Wherever you're listening and watching, however you're listening and you're watching, we appreciate you guys for listening and for watching. For Kennedy Miller and Lamar Gafford, my name is Alex Goodwin. This has been the Game Plan Podcast. We will see you guys next week. Y'all take it easy. And Nas Reed, everybody.